Welcome to Module 3. In this module, we're going to talk about the important idea of blisscipline. Blisscipline simply is the most important discipline you can do on a daily basis. It's the discipline of putting yourself in a state of perpetual bliss or happiness. A lot of people underestimate the impact that happiness can have on almost every aspect of your life. And all the modules we're teaching here go into a particular sequence. So you probably just finished forgiveness. Blisscipline is next. It goes beyond just having a peaceful inner state to having a really joyous inner state. And what I mean by we underestimate the importance of that is as you go into further modules, as you start learning about intuition, you start learning about using your mind to influence reality, you start learning about living in the flow state, all of which will be covered later. You will see that blisscipline is an important ingredient to all of those. So you have to cover this, and you really have to understand the tools that I'm going to give you here to influence your happiness in dramatic ways, so that in upcoming modules where you're learning how to literally go out there and shake up the world and create massive impact, you have greater ability to do so. The pursuit of happiness is one of the most common core things about the human experience. Even in the Declaration of Independence, these words were used. Yet, it is often so difficult. Science has shown us that as we've progressed as a civilization from living in slums and having not nearly as frequent access to things such as sanitation and water and cleanliness 200 years ago to where we are today, happiness levels in human beings almost stay dormant. Why is that? Why isn't it that happiness levels increase? Happiness is a really mysterious thing, and we've been trying to identify and capture it for decades through science, but it still remains elusive. Why is it so important to truly understand happiness? We'll talk about a couple of theories on what is happiness in a moment, but first, let's talk about what happiness gives you. So, science is increasingly seeing that happiness has a profound impact on performance. Doctors, for example, who are primed to be happy, make diagnoses 19% faster. And in this study, which was talked about in the book The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor, the author, Achor, talks about how these doctors were made happy. All they did was, before sending these doctors in this study to go see a patient, they gave the doctors a lollipop. That's it. They gave the doctors a lollipop. And that itself was enough to make these doctors 19% better at making diagnoses. Optimistic salespeople outsell pessimists by 56%. This was another study. Students primed to be happy outperform their neutral peers. Achor says, it turns out our brains are literally hardwired to perform at their best, not when they are negative or even neutral, but when they are positive. So happiness has a huge impact on that 70% of our waking lives that we spend at work. But it goes beyond that. Studies also show that when you learn to control your happiness, when you are happier in a day-to-day state, you actually live longer. They did the studies with nuns, and they found that nuns who were happier, 90% of them were alive at the age of 85. Nuns who were generally negative in life, 34% were alive by the age of 85. And how they figured this out is that they went through these nuns' diaries. So they took a group of several hundred nuns, I presume. They looked at the diaries and they divided these diaries into groups: most positive, least positive, and then there was a 50% that was in the middle. So it was the top 25%, the bottom 25%, then the 50% in the middle. Now, the difference between the top 25 and the bottom 25 was that 90% were alive at the age of 85 versus 34% alive in the bottom 25. It's a pretty cool study. As you go further in this program, or if you've watched some of my speeches online, you'll learn that to exist in the ultimate state of human existence, flow, you need a balance. You need a balance between two things, between being happy in the now and having visions for the future. So as you learn this art of blisscipline, you start creating that happiness in the now. And that happiness in the now seriously influences the state you're in. From the flow or the ultimate state of human existence chart, you'll see that Happiness is an axis, it's the y-axis in this case. And happiness moves us from depression to a current reality trap, or from stress to flow. So it's an important ingredient. If you wanted to understand the basis for this chart, just Google Vishen Lakhiani flow. But we'll be covering deeper aspects of this idea in later trainings. So back to Blisscipline. Blisscipline is simply the discipline of ensuring that you are in a perpetual state of bliss on a daily basis. And it's about understanding that happiness is hackable, not just for yourself, but when you learn some of the systems we're going to teach you here, you'll be able to do this in your organization, in your school, as a family, to your loved ones. It is a powerful, powerful, powerful process. But now, let's go on to what is happiness. So, I was reading this incredible book recently by Shawn Achor. It's called Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion. And, sorry, I apologize, by Sam Harris. Sam Harris is an incredible writer, and I truly recommend this book. And he talks about how there are three types of happiness. Happiness is still elusive, but in general, there are three different types, and there may be more, but these are the three types that we see most active in the world today. The first is instant bliss. Now, you can get instant bliss from popping a pill. I have been on certain hallucinogenic materials at events like Burning Man, or just through experimentation with shamans or other instances, and you get an instant bliss. And what happens is that you are ecstatic, you're elated, life is absolutely incredible. But if that was truly happiness, if happiness was just the instant bliss of winning something, or having an incredible experience with a loved one, then we could probably package it as a pill. In fact, we have. We've created pills like Prozac. We have drugs, some of them illegal, that put you in these states. But the problem is, these states don't last, and often following them, you have a crash as the brain chemicals in your head changes. So if happiness in our human experience was just about instant bliss, we would have packaged it as a drug right now, and probably we'd be hooked up to systems just having this drug flow through us. There would be no human progress, no science, no discovery, no work being done. We'd just be hooked up into an instant bliss machine. So obviously we know that happiness isn't instant bliss. It isn't just experiences alone. Sam Harris talks about a different observation on happiness. He talks about parents. I'm a parent, and I go through these states where it's just an icky experience, changing diapers, dealing with a crying baby who won't let you sleep at night. I have an 18-month-old child right now, so I get that. There are nights when I just don't sleep. And there are moments when you just want to do something else, but you can't because of this 18-month-old crying thing demanding your attention. Parenting is one of the most grueling experiences you can go through in life. Yet, every parent, when they're asked about what it means to them, they absolutely love it. It makes them so happy. Sam says, this has to do with meaning. Parenting gives you meaning. Even though it can be tiresome raising a child, as you do it, that meaning elevates your levels of happiness. So we know that happiness also comes from meaning. This could be one instance why we see that people who are working in dangerous jobs, or jobs like the United Nations. My wife used to volunteer for the United Nations working with refugees. It was an incredibly difficult job, but it gave people meaning. And this is something that creates happiness. But there is yet another thing that creates happiness, and that is awakening. This is why so many people on a spiritual path go through exercises, rituals. They may go and meditate through a course for 12 days and listen to the sound of their breath and go on particular diets or fasting. The reason is because there's another form of happiness that seems to come to us as human beings, and it seems to come through awakening. Now, if you take these three and you relate it to the three most important questions, you'll see there is a parallel. Instant bliss, experiences. Awakening is growth, and meaning is contribution. So it directly corresponds to that exercise that I've been suggesting people do for a very long time in terms of elevating their levels of happiness. But now we come to the most mysterious thing about happiness, and this is the happiness set point. So it seems that all of us have a particular set point for happiness. It's a bar which kind of defines where we are in terms of our happiness level. And studies have shown that if you take someone who won the lottery and someone who, say, lost a limb in an accident, immediately after winning the lottery, the person who won will be incredibly happy. The person who had the accident will be incredibly sad. But 1 year later, their happiness levels are back to where they were before the incident, the tragedy, or the win. And it's a really mysterious phenomenon, but we call it the happiness set point. And it's a good thing because it means that even tragedy will not negatively impact our life over the long term in too dramatic a way. But it's also kind of boring because it means that a big win, like winning a lottery and having $1 million enter your bank account, also will not keep you permanently happy. So the happiness set point has been studied. They call it hedonic adaptation, the fact that we move back to our set happiness levels. You can Google this study, hedonic adaptation. Now, hedonic adaptation is mysterious. It's kind of annoying sometimes because what it's saying is that no matter what we bring into our life, experience-wise, or a win, or even a tragedy, we adapt to it. They found, however, that this is something that is hackable. It's hackable in two ways. One is through appreciation. In other words, you make it a practice to appreciate what you have about your life. If you win that lottery, every month or so as you get to spend some of that money, you appreciate that. And it was that simple. Just appreciating that would help shift you to higher levels of happiness. Another thing that helps shift you is variety. So what happens is, let's say you have a bathtub in your house and you just bought this beautiful bathtub so you could take baths rather than just showers. After a while, your happiness level as a result of getting that bathtub is going to start going down. So the theory of hedonic adaptation says that to impact that, to keep creating up levels in your happiness, you create variety. So there are two ways. Appreciation, the second one is variety. Now, variety means you might take a bath with different bath salts. You might take a bath one day with a certain form of music, the next day a different form of music, the next day, I don't know, maybe take a bath with someone else. But by creating variety, you keep your happiness levels going up. So variety and appreciation help you combat hedonic adaptation. It helps you prevent your happiness levels from sinking due to you going back to the normal feelings of the state of being. But beyond hedonic adaptation and its ways to change, there are other ways to hack happiness, and a lot of it is just behavioral changes. So let me share that idea through this simple story. There's a scientist who has a messy desk, and every day when he's done in his workshop, he leaves with his desk messy, and his daughter would walk in and his daughter would just start cleaning stuff up on his desk. And she'd get very frustrated with him. And so one day he decided to ask her, "Why are you so upset with the way I work in my workplace?" And she goes, "Well, you leave a complete mess, and I don't want to live with you, Dad, in this house that's a complete mess." So the scientist says, "Well, what's a mess to you?" And she goes, this desk. And he says, "Well, let's take this pencil. If I put this pencil here, what happens?" And she goes, "You've created a mess." And he goes, "What if I put it here?" She goes, "You've created a mess." And he asks her, "Well, where should the pencil be?" And then she goes and she puts it back in the pencil holder. She says, "Well, that's where it should be." So he goes, "Look, I don't see a mess, because to me, what I have is a beautiful desk. But what you've done is you've created such a clear definition of what it is that is unmessy, what it is that makes you happy, that you don't give yourself wiggle room. So no matter what I do, if I even take a pencil out of my pencil holder and keep it there, you see a mess." And he had a point. His daughter had created a firm definition of what was a neat desk. In other words, a firm definition of what was going to keep her happy. And anything beyond that definition upset her. Happiness is trainable. What you're going to learn in the next section are 5 systems that you can apply into your life so that you get to train the way you see happiness. But as a result of these systems, what happens is you also become happier. In other words, happiness is completely hackable. So we're going to go through these 5 systems, and I'm going to teach you different tools, different techniques you can bring into your life for all of these 5 methods to enhance your happiness. You don't have to remember or use all of them, but simply using a few of them, or even using some of them at different moments in your life when you're feeling particularly down, will have a dramatic impact. Now, the first, of course, is gratitude. In that study on hedonic adaptation, they showed that variety and appreciation help level up your happiness. Gratitude is appreciation. Gratitude is just a more common word. So we're going to learn about a technique for gratitude that goes way beyond some of the techniques that you may have heard about on the web. So first, let's talk about gratitude. Gratitude is so singularly important. A study was recently done on all aspects of the human experience to see what correlates highest with well-being. They looked at inspiration, they looked at joy, they looked at pride, they looked at love. Turns out gratitude has the single highest correlation with well-being. The single highest correlation. Nothing else comes close to gratitude when it comes to just having people live richer lives. And science has gone further. There have been so many studies on gratitude right now that it's actually a really interesting subject. In science labs, they found that gratitude gives you more energy. Gratitude gives you higher emotional intelligence. You relate to people better. Gratitude makes you easier to forgive. Gratitude helps reduce depression. Gratitude creates less anxiousness. Gratitude creates more feelings of being socially connected. It helps you sleep better. It creates fewer headaches. So every day should begin in gratitude. Every night should end in gratitude. Now, a lot of people overcomplicate the topic. It is really easy. So if you've learned the 6-phase meditation, and at this point, most of you should be doing it daily, you'll know that phase 2 is gratitude, and the exercise we prescribe is really simple. You think about 3 to 5 things in your personal life that you're grateful for, 3 to 5 things in your work life. So really simple. Now, the 3 to 5 things in your personal life would be things such as, I'm grateful that I have this wonderful bed to sleep on. Or I'm grateful that I'm married to this incredible person. Or I'm grateful that I have a home that I absolutely adore because it's so beautiful. And then 3 to 5 things in your work life might be, I'm grateful that I have such an incredible set of coworkers. I'm grateful that my office is so comfortable. I'm grateful that my commute is not long. Now notice, none of those are extraordinary things. If you have extraordinary things happen in your life, let's say you just closed a project that brought you a $100,000 commission, be grateful for that. But if you don't, sometimes I'm just grateful that I had an incredible cup of coffee the day before, and that just filled me with so much joy. It doesn't have to be something big. But here's the trick, right? Here's the trick that significantly multiplies that exercise. A lot of people, as they start doing this, they fall into a trap where it becomes nothing more than a logical progression of a list. I'm grateful for A, I'm grateful for B, I'm grateful for C. Don't get there. What happens is, every time you state what you're grateful for, bring back to mind the feeling you had when you were grateful. If you're grateful for your spouse, bring back to mind a particular moment when he or she really made you feel loved and wonderful. And just feel that for about 20 seconds. That's all it takes, 20 seconds. So, thus, doing this entire exercise, 3 things in your career, 3 things at home, will take you no more than maybe 2.5 minutes, right? Counting for pauses. But try to go beyond. Try to go for 5 things at home, 5 things at work. 20 seconds of just feeling that. And you're now spending maybe about 4 to 5 minutes, but still, it's one of the most dramatic things you can do. Now, the second thing I want to suggest is you don't just do it in the morning with the 3 most important questions. You don't just do it in the morning with the 6-phase meditation. You do it at night too. So I tried doing this exercise now just before falling asleep. And the effect it can have on you is really profound. I've also done this exercise with my 7-year-old son. So before I put Hayden to sleep, I ask him one question. What are you grateful for? And it's really helped him become a happier child. At night, as he's going to bed, I'll tell him, tell me one thing that made you happy or that you're grateful for today. And he'll say, well, I'm grateful that I have this new toy. I'm grateful that I have this friend in school. And sometimes he's shy about it. So I'll start by me telling him something I'm grateful for, and then I'll get him to respond. So do this exercise with your kids. Do it with yourself. One of the few things you can do that create incredible boost in your levels of happiness. Now, the second system is something that you're well familiar with. It's forgiveness. And we've already dedicated an entire session to this because forgiveness leads to higher states of happiness. But as you saw in that earlier study, gratitude helps give you a better forgiveness muscle. So they both give in to each other. Gratitude makes your forgiveness muscle bigger. which allows you to forgive more, which elevates your happiness levels. So both of them work beautifully together. We've gone deep into forgiveness, so we won't go too deep into it now, but forgiveness really is the key to so many beautiful things that you can open up in your life, from being able to bounce back from bad situations to being able to heal your charges against these situations so that when you want to fix them, and you'll learn about that in further sessions on bending reality, influencing reality with your mind, this becomes easier. So forgiveness is a key to happiness, to discipline, but you'll also see as we progress in this course, it's a key to being able to dramatically heal situations through the power of your mind. We'll come to that in a moment. But now we come to method number 3, and it is really simple. It's got to do with loving yourself. Loving yourself is one of the things that is so important in our personal development, but we fail to pay efficient or enough attention to it. And I really feel that this is something that we underestimate. We've trained to believe that to love ourselves is to be narcissistic, as if loving ourselves somehow makes us love other people less. In fact, the reality is the complete opposite. When you love yourself, you become more capable of giving love to others, and you become less needy in your relationships and less needy in the love that you need. So I'm going to share with you 3 techniques, and the first 2 come from this man, Kamal Ravikant. Kamal is a Silicon Valley investor. In fact, he's fairly famous in Silicon Valley. If you come from Silicon Valley, you've probably heard of this website called Angels List, where all of the major Silicon Valley investors collaborate and look for projects. It started by Kamal's brother, Naval. Kamal is himself an investor and a really successful one. So Kamal has a book out called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It. And I brought him to speak at Awesomeness Fest. You can Google this talk. It's also at the appendix section of this particular module. It's called Love and Entrepreneurship. And Kamal talks about how he was going through a moment in his life where he was sickly, he was depressed, he couldn't leave his home. And the cure was simply discovering self-love. And he shares a number of different techniques in this speech and in the book. So I truly recommend the book. The book is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It. It's only around less than 60 pages. It's a really concise book, but it's a remarkable book. And watch the speech. The speech is just 20 minutes, but you will learn a lot. But what I'm going to share with you here are some of the techniques I learned from Kamal. Now, the first is called the mental loop. In the same way that you tell loved ones how much you love them, you need to start telling yourself the same thing. While repeating the phrase, feel the emotion in the words. This will anchor not only the words, but also the sensation of feeling love for yourself. So it's a mental loop. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. When Kamal gave this speech at Awesomeness Fest, people so fell in love with it, they turned it into a song. A musician got on stage and said, I'm going to give you a beat that you can say this to. And it sounds like this. I love myself. 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 And it was really fun to see that at this entire festival, people were just humming this beat. And following the festival, they started a movement where people were recording videos of themselves singing and dancing to this little beat, uploading it on YouTube. I'll send you a link to a website where you can see some of these videos. That will be in a later section of this module. So you can sing this little ditty or repeat this phrase to yourself while taking a shower, while brushing your teeth, while walking or exercising, while queuing. But the impact it has is incredible. When you read Kamal's book, it's astonishing to see just how much he was able to heal himself using this simple technique. Now, the second technique also comes from Kamal. I love this technique, and I do it quite frequently when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling particularly unloved. And it's all about talking to yourself in a mirror, like speaking directly with your soul. It works best if you practice this regularly, like going to a gym. So you can do this when you're brushing your teeth or when you're combing your hair or putting on makeup in the mirror. Now, it has to do with eye gazing, except you're not gazing into the eyes of another human being, you're gazing into your own eyes. So looking at a mirror, you focus on one of your eyes. Just focus on one eye. And once your gaze is fixed on your eye, you repeat, I love myself, for as much as 5 minutes. You can do it shorter if you're in a rush. Why it works. If you're looking at your own eye for 5 minutes, you're locked into your true self. They say the eye is the window to your soul. Your mind cannot wander and escape. And when you tell that to yourself in your eye, it sometimes creates the same levels of feeling love as if a loved one was looking at you with their eyes. And if you've experienced that, you all know how powerful that experience is, truly gazing into the eyes of someone you absolutely love. But now you're doing it with your own eye, and the results can be really dramatic. So try those two techniques and watch Kamal's speech. It's at the end of this training. I love me. I love myself is just one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. When I started practicing some of these techniques, I found that it changed the way I interacted with people. It was really weird because I used to be more of an extrovert, but when I started doing this, I became more comfortable being alone with myself. Sometimes when I was having a particularly stressful week, I would need to go out and have a drink with friends. I would need to get a hug from a loved one or a friend, because life was so stressful. Now I don't need that anymore. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy hugging people or I don't enjoy going out for drinks, but I don't need it. And so one of the things that this gave me was the ability to be with myself and to truly love being with myself. I stopped feeling alone. I became more comfortable being an introvert. I couldn't understand at first why this was happening, but it really seemed to unleash in me this ability to just be with myself and to truly enjoy my own company and to not feel like I needed anyone's attention or anyone to live a joyous life. But we're not going to stop there. I want to teach you another technique that falls under I love myself, and that's the I am enough technique. Often we simply don't love ourselves because we don't think of ourselves as being enough. So another remarkable speaker that I learned this from is Marissa Peer. She's soon to be a major Mindvalley author, and she spoke about this at Awesomeness Fest. So Marissa is the hypnotherapist to many remarkably famous people, from Hollywood stars, A-listers, to the royal family. She was the hypnotherapist to the late Princess Diana. And Marissa gave a speech where she talked about the common denominator of all emotional issues is I am not enough. She talked about how and I'm going to link to the speech, so I won't go into deep detail here, but it's one of the most beautiful talks I've ever heard. It's 40 minutes, and it will transform you like it transformed me and a lot of people who listened to her at A-Fest. The talk is available online. It's called The Biggest Disease Affecting Humanity, I'm Not Enough, by Marissa Peer. Go ahead and Google it. We just put it up, so it's only at about 9,000 views, but that's going to go up. But listen to this. It's a remarkable talk. Marissa talks about how there was a particular Hollywood star who was just grumpy, and she was brought in to help fix him because he was being disruptful to the films he was being filmed on, with the directors, with his co-stars. And when she went to see him, she was even warned, don't park your car outside his house because you're not driving a high-end luxury car like a Porsche or Lamborghini. So park far away, because not having a ordinary car parked in front of his house really flips him out. And she was given all these warnings about him. She met him, and the warnings were right. He was a right a-hole. He was mean, he was nasty, and Marissa asked him, look, I want to suggest one simple thing you can do. This one simple thing will completely transform your life. See, Marissa found out that he had an abusive father, a father who, from the time he was a child, that just made him feel he was not enough. And growing up, he had to prove it. He had to prove it by sleeping with woman after woman, by buying expensive cars, by being an absolute dick to the people around him. So Marissa prescribed a solution. She took lipstick and she wrote on his mirror, I am enough. And she said, I'm going to write this in every mirror in your house, but the one thing is, for 30 days, do not delete it. And so he obliged. She was being paid big bucks for this. It seemed like a simplistic cure, but he obliged. He had this statement on mirrors across his house. 30 days later, she saw him, and he had completely transformed. And months later, she saw him, and she said he was walking down the street towards her, and he started taking off his clothes. And Marissa's like, whoa, what's going on? And as he approached her, he removed his shirt, and he showed her. He's like, Marissa, look at me. I have lost all that weight because I now know I am enough. He had downsized his car. He had taken a holiday, and he said that for the first time in life, he felt comfortable with himself. His entire career had changed. The way he worked with people had changed. He got into a healthy relationship. He managed to be comfortable with an ordinary car, with being able to take a vacation by himself and be with himself. His health improved because he became comfortable with feeling enough. When Marissa gave this talk, it sparked a movement at Awesomeness Fest, and a whole bunch of people started writing this on their mirror, sharing it on Facebook. On the left, that is the United States woman kickboxing champion, Lisa Van Ann. She was so touched by this. She wrote that on her mirror, I am enough. Lisa shared with me the fact that she never felt enough. She felt uncomfortable being in photos. She didn't feel like she was pretty. After that speech for the first time, Lisa Van Ann, the United Nations woman kickboxing champion, felt comfortable being in pictures. She wrote that on her mirror. On your right is Mia Koning, who is the host of Awesomeness Fest. She wrote, I am enough on her mirror and shared that. Lisa Nichols, the famous Lisa Nichols, shared that on Facebook. This lady, Astuti from Indonesia, turned it into a band that she wore on her hand. Astuti also created artwork that she put around her home. This incredible man, Zahid Rahman from London, who runs an incredible nonprofit, expanded it. I am enough. I am perfect, just as I am. And these are all amazing individuals, from sports stars to best-selling authors to men like Zahid, who run massive nonprofits. But all of them, including me, at moments in our life just simply felt we were not enough. So if you've ever felt that, know that you're not alone. From Hollywood stars to the royal family, this is something that we've all felt. And many of us, including me, a lot of the success I had in life, I realized I did it because I didn't feel enough. I had to prove myself to someone else. I remember attending a Tony Robbins event once, and Tony made all of us do an exercise, and we had to write down the dominant question playing in our heads. And you know what my dominant question was? It was something along the lines of, how can I prove myself? Like, if I accomplish this, will I prove myself? If I accomplish that, will I prove myself? And I realized that, and this was like 9 years ago, I realized that a lot of my success came because I was trying to prove myself, because deep down inside, I didn't feel enough. And if you felt the same way, know that it's a common affliction. So, while yes, it can drive you to want to do more, and that's why so many successful people have this affliction, when you can heal it, when you realize that you are enough, it doesn't take away your drive, but it makes you so much happier. And when you do accomplish something, and for whatever reason no one notices, it doesn't matter to you. And that's the beauty of this exercise and the beauty of these 3 techniques that we have shared in this part 2. I am enough. So let's talk about how we can bring these systems together, right? So phase 2 of the 6-phase meditation, 3 to 5 things you're grateful for in your personal life, 3 to 5 things you're grateful for in your career or work. But now you're going to do one final step. You're going to say 3 to 5 things you absolutely love about yourself. When I shifted this in my 6-phase meditation, it transformed me. So I had gratitude personal life, gratitude work life, but now I go into a state of appreciation, and I think about 3 to 5 things that I absolutely love about myself. It could be my hair, it could be my body, it could be my intelligence, it could be the fact that I'm a great parent. And make it about you. Don't make it about other people. Don't try to be modest and say, oh, I love myself because I have such great kids. No, you love yourself because you're a freaking amazing parent. Make it about you. The human heart is an extremely interesting organ. Some might call it a selfish organ, because did you know that as your blood flows through your body, the best quality blood, the human heart, saves for itself, and the lesser quality blood it gives to the other organs. So some might say it's the selfish organ. It takes the best quality blood for itself. But the thing is, if the human heart didn't take the best quality blood for itself, the human heart would fail. And if the human heart failed, every other organ, including the brain, would fail with it. So the human heart has to make sure it truly loves itself, that it gives the best attention, the best quality blood to itself. You are the human heart of whatever community, system, family, workplace that you're in. You have to appreciate and love yourself first. And when you do this, you get to give more appreciation and love to everyone else. So don't worry about accusations that you might be a narcissist for doing it. Don't feel guilty about doing it. The best blood needs to go into your self-love. And this will make everyone else around you win. So let's go on to part 3, which is really simple. This simple technique, being present-centered. And it's really just about living in the now. So let me share a story, right, on the importance of now. I have an employee. I had an employee by the name of, I won't share his name, but let's just call him Mr. K. Mr. K is a remarkable guy. He, after he left Mindvalley, he went and started a really successful software company, and someone I really respect. And his wife now works at Mindvalley. So when Mr. K was working at Mindvalley, he was a bit of a geek. He was a stereotypical computer programmer geek, had difficulty approaching women. Even though he's a decently good-looking guy, he was just shy. And he was attending a particular class that we were organizing. And the lecturer in that class made a statement that flipped his mind. That statement was, what is the past? We see ourselves as who we identified with in the past, but think about it. The past doesn't exist anymore. It's really just the neurons in your head that capture certain memories. It's just neurons, and you can change that. And when he had that epiphany, it changed him. He's like, well, why do I keep telling myself I'm shy? Why do I keep telling myself I'm an introvert? That's just the past. And he flipped so much, or he moved from being shy to being a really charismatic guy. He would just be able to walk into a bar or a club and just approach and talk to any beautiful woman he saw. He told me about how incredibly his life changed. Well, at first it was exciting for him because he got to date multiple women, but soon it allowed him to find his wife. They're now about to have a baby, and he would never be with this remarkable woman if he hadn't realized that he was carrying past patterns from the past that told him he was an introvert, told him he was shy, and when he learned to just flip it, he created a completely new identity in life for himself. You can do that too. But all of that is about living in the present, understanding that the past is no more. It's nothing more than just patterns of neurons in your brain, and the future hasn't come yet. So don't worry about the future, don't worry about the past, live in the present. Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, talks about this in depth. When you can live in the present, you truly get to make your happiness about what is going on right now. You can drink a cup of coffee, as I'm doing right now, and feel absolute happiness and appreciation for that act. So it's a really beautiful process that I want to encourage that you do. Living in the present is a system that you can bring in on a day-to-day basis. Whenever you have a chance to just get fully present, it could happen while you're driving. Think about the fact that you're in a freaking automobile. People 50 years ago didn't have access to that. When you're at work and on a computer, even though you might be working in a project, just think about the fact that you are on a machine that has been invented in just the last 30 years but gives you such a productivity boost. When you're wearing clothing, admire the fact that 100 years ago, people maybe had 5 or 6 articles of clothing and often couldn't wash it for several days, but you get to wash this every single day. There's so much to appreciate about the present. But when you do so, it elevates your level of happiness. It's called being present-centeredness. Now we go on to the fourth exercise, the fifth exercise. And the fifth exercise or system is one of my favorites. It's turning problems into projects. The late Jose Silva, who passed away in '99, but gave us the Silva method, had a beautiful saying, see every problem as a project. Every problem is nothing more than a project, a call to fix something about the world. So I want to talk to you about the idea of Kensho versus Satori. I was chatting with Michael Beckwith once. He is the Reverend Michael Beckwith of the Agape Church in LA and one of the most beautiful, amazingly insightful spiritual leaders in the world today. And Beckwith says there are 2 ways we grow in life, through Kensho or Satori. Satori is the one that we want to experience. Satori moments are moments of sudden awakening. You could have a Satori moment through an experience with an incredible healer or through a deep meditation experience where you wake up. Satori moments are rare. They may happen maybe once every few years, but they create a beautiful awakening and you up-level. But we also up-level through Kensho. Kensho is what happens on a day-to-day basis. Kensho are the trials and tribulations of day-to-day living. Kensho, however, can be painful. Kensho is when someone breaks your heart, and it's painful, but you wake up and you become stronger, and you develop a stronger heart because of it. Kensho happens when you fail in a business or you lose all your money. That's happened to me, but it makes you stronger because it makes you more responsible. It makes you a better business person. Kensho happens when you fall ill and you're hospitalized, but it makes you stronger because you learn just how resilient your body can be. Kensho is painful, but it's a necessary part of our soul's evolution. So he suggests that we see Kensho as nothing more than ways that our soul are calling on to us to grow. Now, a beautiful thing happens, right? When you start really immersing yourself in personal growth. As you take courses like this, you start to have less Kensho, but you start to have more Satori because your soul is waking up through inspiration, through learning. So it doesn't feel it needs to give you as much pain for you to grow. And congratulations, because just taking this course reduces painful Kensho moments, but move you more towards Satori-based waking up. But the thing is, if Kensho is true, and you can see it as a model of reality, then every problem is nothing more than an opportunity. Every broken heart, every failed business, every illness, every negative person who comes into your life and puts you down does nothing but makes you stronger. Buckminster Fuller said, you never change things by fighting existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. When I lost my business, I created a new model on an even greater business. When I had my heart broken, I created a new model of the man I wanted to be so that I could attract an even better woman. And so, when problems come in life, apply this model. I call it the energy redirection technique. It comes from another Mindvalley author by the name of Bert Goldman. So you turn a problem into a project. So this is how energy redirection works. Bert narrates a story of how he was coming out from teaching a class and he saw that in the parking lot someone had dented his car. So he had a dent on his car. Now he had two choices. He could get upset about the dent, feel annoyed that someone dented the car, didn't so much as leave a note and drove away, or he could turn it into a project. He turned it into a project. He calls this energy redirection. He said he drove the car to an auto repairman who said it's going to cost $800 to fix that dent. And Bert, at that point, he was just starting out his career as a teacher, said, okay, $800, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how I, as a coach, can make an additional $800 a month, every month, so I can pay for this dent, and then every subsequent month have an extra $800 in my wallet. Now, he set that as an intention. He turned his problem into a project. And sure enough, within 1 month, he came up with a new marketing strategy that got more people into his lectures. He made an extra $800. He paid for the debt, but now he made that extra $800 every month and got to save that money. You see, problem into a project. When I moved my company Mindvalley to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, because I couldn't get a visa to stay in the United States, I was devastated. I was being separated from my favorite city, New York, from my friends, but I turned that problem into a project. I decided that in Malaysia, I was going to create the world's most extraordinary workplace. And in a way I did. We became the first company in Asia to win the world's most democratic workplace award. We still have a long way to go to become the world's most extraordinary workplace, but we built such a beautiful workplace that today people from all around the world come to Kuala Lumpur to work for Mindvalley. But I did it inspired by this quote by Buckminster Fuller and through ideas such as the energy redirection technique. Every problem you faced in life should be turned into a project. Here's an example that you can apply for a common problem, the broken heart. All of us go through heartbreak. And when I went through heartbreak, I simply turned it into a project. I decided that I had my heart broken because this person that I liked just didn't feel I was the man that they wanted to be with. I'm like, okay, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to simply elevate my being to be the type of man where I can attract an even more incredible woman to me. And that's what happened. 2 months later, I met the woman who would become my wife. So heartbreak can be an incredible stepping stone to transforming yourself so that you become the next greatest version of yourself. There's a beautiful speech that we had shared at A-Fest called Asleep at the Wheel. It's by my friend Sam Cawthorn. Sam is an Australian, has 3 kids, and was in a devastating auto accident. He lost his right arm. He lost the ability to bend his right leg, so now he walks with a limp. Sam has a prosthetic arm. He has a prosthetic leg. Actually, his leg was amputated at the knee. And it was devastating. But Sam turned it into a gift. Today, he's one of the most inspiring men on stage. He still has an incredible life with his kids, even though he's one-armed and one-legged. And when you listen to his speech, Sam talks about the concept of bouncing forward. He says when tragedy strikes, we can choose to see our lives as being perpetually different, or we can bounce forward. Listen to this speech. This too is in this program for you to listen to. It's about 35 minutes. and it'll really inspire you. So your homework this week is to listen to these 3 speeches, Kamal Ravikant, Marissa Peer, Sam Cawthon, and to continue doing the 6-phase meditation. But now as you do it, what you want to do is you want to expand the gratitude section to bring in feelings, to feel it, 20 seconds per feeling, and to not just do gratitude, but to just add on that aspect of what you love about yourself. So 3 to 5 things you're grateful for in your personal life, 3 to 5 things you're grateful for in your work life, 3 to 5 things you love about yourself. And that's going to be how I want you to adapt your practice this week. And at the same time, remember the other systems and techniques we have shared with you, from the energy redirection technique to the I am enough. Go ahead and write that on your mirror, to the techniques on self-love, the little ditty, that little song you can sing to yourself, to the eye-gazing technique, to the idea of being in the present, to the consistent practice of forgiveness and gratitude. We'll put it all together. Gratitude, do that in your 3 most important, do that in your 6-phase meditation. Forgiveness, continue practicing that in your 6-phase meditation. Love yourself. You're going to inject that 5 things I love about myself exercise in your 6-phase at the end of the gratitude session. You'll also practice the eye gazing. You'll write I am enough on your mirror, being present-centered, that's just a day-to-day habit to do, and seeing problems as projects. You do this as and when you need it. And when you put that all together, you truly start mastering the art of Blisscipline. You become unshakable in your happiness levels, and thus you get to have a greater impact on your world and on your society.